Welcome back to Law Talk, where if you have legal questions, we have legal answers on CentralValleyTalk.com Fridays from 3 to 4. Today, we're honored to have Mark Dowling from Lucky Bail Bonds.
Speedy Bail Bonds.
Speedy Bail Bonds. Talk about the bail process and several other things. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Where do we find Speedy?
Actually, Lucky recommended them. That's a nice thing, actually.
Yeah,
His name.
Okay.
Yeah, I've known Barry Pearlstein for probably 15 years since I moved here from Los Angeles and opened up my business here in Fresno.
Okay. All right. Do you have a phone number where people can reach you?
Yeah, I've had the same phone number for 25 years. That's 559-271-1546. You can reach me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
I can call at 2 o'clock in the morning.
If you do, I'll
Does
show
that
up
make
at
my bail higher?
I'll show up at your house.
Does that make the percentage higher?
It very well might because it's you.
How does it work? You got to pay like 10%, 8%, 7%?
Some people have to pay 10% for the bail. Some people have to pay 8% for the bail. If you're a union member or you're a U.S. military veteran who we respect very much, or a retired person on what they call AARP, America's Association of Retired People, you can get an 8% bond. They allow you to give rebates on bonds if they meet certain criteria. So people either pay 8% or 10%. But there's a lot of financing that goes on.
$100,000, 10%, that's $10,000. I got to pay you
Correct.
$10,000? I don't have $10,000. How's that work?
Well, you might pay me if you're a working person and you've been on your job for a number of years, or you own property here in town or anywhere in the United States. I could take a lien on property and take $1,000 or $2,000 up front and then finance you the balance of it in payments.
Interest on it or something?
I don't usually charge interest as long as the people make their payments on time. We have everything set out in writing, but we don't charge interest to people as long as they pay their bills on time each month, and we'll give them 12 months or 24 months, same as cash.
So let's back up a little bit. I'm talking like people know what bail is. What's bail and why do you need it?
Anyone who gets arrested in America for any charge whatsoever, from a ticket that they haven't paid at the court to a child support that they're not paying, or if they get into an argument with their spouse or they write a bad check, anything. There's a bail schedule that the judges in the Superior Courts of California set, and that bail schedule, they set every single bail on every single crime that you could possibly imagine.
And then, what
what
happened to innocent until proven guilty? You basically have like a big fine
Well,
to
you
stay
can-
out of jail if you're accused, or?
Well, you do have to, and that is true.
It's a fact of life.
And it's a fact of life, and it's been that way for thousands of years. Bail is not an American system. It dates all the way back to the Greeks and Socrates. So bail it was even mentioned in the Bible when someone had to put a handshake up for someone else to guarantee that they would take care of their business. So when an officer encounters an individual and arrests them, they take them to the back of the jail. They look in a large book, or they look on their pamphlets, and they realize what they've arrested the person for. They see the bail schedule that's been set by the judge, and then the jail enters that information and gives the defendant 6 to 12 hours to try to post a bond with a person like myself, so that they can get free, so that it's easier for them to get representation, get their life back in order. Some people who have never been arrested before, this is an extremely traumatic experience. This is something that no one wants to go through.
So basically, otherwise you'd have to stay in jail until your innocence or guilt was decided. Then that's how they came up with bail. They let you out in the meantime.
Correct.
You promise to pay some money, and that's what gives you the incentive to come back.
Correct. You usually, with the bail bond, you have a co-signer, a person like yourself, who, say one of our brothers gets in trouble, and we try to help them out. So we go to see a bail bondsman like myself. I would sign an actual contract for my brother saying that he will take care of his business. He will show up, come good, bad, or ugly. He will take care of his business. If he doesn't, then I, the co-signer, the person who signed the contract, could be held liable for the full amount of the bail, which in the case we already mentioned would be $100,000. And then at that time we would try to, we have a certain statutory amount of time in which to get a person back to court if they ever miss court on our bond also.
So what happens if you're just absolutely broke and you can't get anybody to help you, and you're on for like a DUI or something like that? and you can't post bail, what happens?
The local jails are so overcrowded now that they don't really have space to hold people for, say, simple DUIs or simple drug possession. So most of those people do get out. But if you absolutely had no one in the world and you had no money, if you had a bail set, you could not get out of jail. The way the jail works is if it's a fresh charge, they have 48 court hours in which to file a case against you before the sheriff would have to let you go. They would either have to file probable cause or they would have to file an actual case against you, assigning a case number to it. And if that was the case, you might be left in jail for the entire length of your case. And just because you're poor and destitute, you may be in jail for 6 months or a year. It's sad, but it's true.
But like in the Fresno County Jail, wouldn't they like let you out eventually because they run out of space? Or
the Sheriff Mims is really trying to keep a lot more of the defendants in the jail than release them, because we're often getting people now that go to jail and say, "Well, that isn't even that bad. I was sure they were going to let me out." And the jail,
like a domestic violence offender, they have a
domestic violence,
those guys,
domestic violence. Those men and women for domestic violence are always held in jail and never released. Because the sheriff realizes, a lot of people that are involved in domestic violence think, oh, it's just an overblown situation. Absolutely not. It could be a situation where you could get shot and killed or stabbed or beat to death. I mean, it does happen. Family law is very emotional, and family crime is very emotional. When you have a domestic violence situation, it's very scary.
So, put yourself in the shoes of the person that's accused, that's arrested, that's down there in jail. They take, is it better to get a criminal defense attorney first or a bail bondsman? Is there an order? It depends on the case. What are the advantages and disadvantages of doing it differently?
When people often call me, they realize that from me, that bail bondsmen and attorneys are often in competition for the same clients. But however, I try not to think of it as competition for the same clients. If a client can afford to use me and get out of jail and get back on the job and get working again, that's the number one best thing to do, because you want them to get their life back in order. However, if their bail is so high, $100,000, $200,000, $80,000, whatever it may be happen to be, and they can't afford that, I tell them, you're not my client yet. I suggest that you personally get a private attorney, that your family finds a private attorney. The attorney can kill two birds with one stone. They can go in and get the bail reduced for you so that you can get out on bail. Also, you will have great representation until the end of your case, because the public defender's office and the public defender's office in Fresno County, just like many counties across the state of California, is badly overcrowded and understaffed. They have way too many cases. They don't have the time to deal with the clients.
So we already discussed. If you have $100,000 bail, you may pay like $10,000, but then you only pay like $2,500, and then you don't have to pay the whole thing at once.
You may not have to pay the whole thing at once, but everybody needs to realize that once their name is signed to a contract, that they are liable for the full amount of the money. As soon as the defendant's feet hit the street and they're released, that's when our money is fully earned. If the district attorney decides to not file charges on them, which often happens, at least 20 to 30% of the time, they'll come back to me and they'll say, Mark, the district attorney didn't file on me. They said my bond is exonerated. I don't owe you any more money. I tell them, I don't mean to be rude, but you do still owe me money. You owe me money the day that I got you out of jail. The contract reads that even if they've made a mistake, that's not our fault. There are two ways to get out of jail with bail. One, you can put cash bail up, which is either cash or a cashier's check or a money order from the U.S. Postal Service. That's the only kind the jail will take, is a U.S. Postal money order, or actual cash, or a bail bond. So people do have other avenues to get out of jail, but the most cost-effective way for them to get out of jail is a bail bond.
Okay. And so conceivably, a person could be arrested in jail. They have 6 to 12 hours before they put them into the other jail or something, and then they haven't filed charges at this point. So they could pay sign up and say, I'm going to pay this, however much the bail is, $5,000 or something, and then the charges never get filed, and they still have to pay you. It's like it doesn't automatically disappear because
Correct.
They're dismissed or not filed.
Correct. If they would have put cash bail up, and the district attorney decided not to file a case against them, then they would get that cash bail back. But if it's a bail bond, they do not get that money back. It's not our fault. They could have chosen to stay in jail. No one wants to stay in jail. But however, that's the way the law is. Bail bondsmen, we operate within the frame of the law.
So maybe the cheapest way to do it is to wait until, from the perspective of a person that's arrested and sitting in jail, is to actually wait until they actually file charges, because maybe they're not going to file the charges. How many days do they have? Like 3 or 4 days?
Sometimes I tell my clients
Or is it a
sometimes I tell my clients it's best to wait in jail to see if they don't have the money right now. Just wait in jail a few days, see if they file on them, see if they file reduced charges on them, which can sometimes happen, and then go ahead and use me.
And then maybe if it's like something really expensive, they could get a criminal defense attorney to maybe reduce the bail a little bit, and then.
Correct.
I mean, these things are not like to your advantage. I mean, that's like. You
But
make
it's all
money.
right. I'm not a greedy person. I'm a small guy. I'll do whatever, I want later on the customer to be happy. I don't want the customer to feel that I took advantage of them. I want them to make sure that they're in control.
That's kind of bail bondsman. God forbid I never have to do something like that, but that's the kind of guy I would call, I guess. And your number is?
271-1546.
All right. This is Chris White at Law Talk, where if you have legal questions, we have legal answers every Friday from 3 to 4. We will be right back with another 12 minutes with Mark Dowling from Speedy Bail Bonds.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Law Talk, where if you have legal questions, we have legal answers. We're back with Mark Dowling, continuing our discussion about the bail process. But actually, we were talking before with Lisa Gamoyan before the show, and we were in this great philosophical discussion about what's wrong with the jail system and overcrowding. What's your take on it?
I believe that is a problem. Jerry Brown cut back with the state having such financial difficulty, the state had to cut back the amount of money that it gives to the courts throughout California. They cut $300 million out of the court system. That cut positions for district attorneys, public defenders, hours. A lot, like Lisa had said, a lot of the smaller justice courts have been closed. Reedley, Dinuba, Kingsburg, Fowler, Clovis, all those courts cost money, at least a few $1 million a year to run with all the staff and transportation costs. And that's really a problem because many of those people that are in jail right now used to go to courts like that and would have their cases heard much quicker. Now they're all shoved in to the Fresno Superior Court, and the problem is it's slowed it down quite a bit. It's like walking through quicksand over there. It's very slow.
We were talking about what is the root of the problem. How do you prevent recidivism, people from going back into the system, going back into jail, or being back on probation, the rehabilitation. And I forgot to ask her about Delancey Street. She was talking about that was a good program.
There are a
what
number of
happened
good
to
programs.
rehabilitation? It's
Well,
like
the state doesn't have the money for rehabilitation. Now they have only a certain amount of dollars. They have to figure out where those dollars go. Do those dollars go to rehabilitation of defendants, or do those dollars go to incarceration? Most of the people in the state of California who've never been in trouble or don't have a loved one in trouble want incarceration, and that's understandable. But however, we also need to drop the recidivism rate. We have to get rehabilitation. Many of the people who are arrested for low-level crimes, such as drug offenses, are also involved in residential burglaries, car thefts, in order to support their drug habits. If we can get people rehabilitated, we could drop the recidivism rate, and we could stop the revolving door that is the jail. And the problem with the jail is also many of the people have now been sent back to California, to the local county jails, by the state prisons because they're so overcrowded. We have not built a new state prison in the state of California in over 20 years. Because of that, the jails and prisons are extremely overcrowded. More and more bad people are born every day. And it's a sad fact of life, but there are people who enjoy being a bad guy or a bad woman.
So we were talking about rehabilitation. I can't remember if it was you or it was Lisa that was talking about rehabilitation. I imagine probably for people with alcoholism,
Yes.
mental illness,
Yes.
Drug dependency.
Correct.
And was she talking about they should, or they were talking about or going to build a new facility?
They are. I went to a supervisors meeting just about a month ago, or maybe 2 months ago now. The state of California was willing to give 90% of the funds that we needed to build a new jail. All we need to do is come up with the final 10%, which sounds easy, but you're talking about a facility that may cost $100 million and may cost the city of Fresno another $10 million. Still, it's a great deal. The new facility would not be just an old school jail. It would be a jail and a treatment facility in one, so that when the people who are incarcerated there are able to go to mental health facility, to a mental health doctor right inside the jail facility. They can have their problems addressed by monitors. They can deal with doctors that aren't even at the facility, but because of technology are able to be brought right into the facility by monitor. And they can sometimes address these problems. A lot of the people that are in our jails have mental health problems. We don't have the mental health facilities to hold people any longer, so you see a lot of homeless people that are in the jail also that have mental issues. These people are, they have problems, and no matter what we do, unless we get them some kind of treatment, they're just going to keep on going through the system. And
they actually closed the mental health facilities in Fresno County recently, the hospital, the psychiatric hospital.
I'd imagine they just didn't have the funds for it anymore. Fresno's under financial stress, but we're trying to do everything we can, and I believe that new jail will be up and running by 2018. And It sounds like a long time away, but when you think about it, it's not that far. And it'll be a good facility. Hopefully, a lot less people being recidivists.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine that the worst place to send a person that has mental illness is
jail.
Into the jail, because there's no public psychiatric hospital.
Correct.
What happens when someone gets 5150 now, like where they're a danger to themselves or others? I guess they put them into.
The jail has a special facility in the jail, which is a hospital floor. I believe it's a second floor. They have a hospital unit there, and they keep people there that have medical issues, but also mental issues too, because you don't want someone with a mental issue being mixed in with the regular offenders at the jail. What happens if the person with mental issues accidentally says something to the person who's a lifetime gang member? I mean, that person with mental issues could lose their life over that. So I recently helped a situation where a defendant had a stroke and was left blind and partially paralyzed, and was taken into jail in Tulare County, which I also operate in Tulare County. And I managed to get the defendant released for free without bail. Wow. I called the district attorney over in Oklahoma. I called the judge over in Oklahoma, explained to him the situation, faxed all the documents of the defendant's poor mental and physical condition, and the judge dropped the case in the interest of justice. And I didn't make a penny off that.
Pro bono work for you? I didn't
Yes.
know bail bondsman did. What kind of bail bondsman does pro bono work? You're supposed to be like this bounty hunter guy that goes.
Oh, I try to be a nice guy
here. Guys when they don't do what they're supposed to do.
When people are really bad, and I've got to deal with people who have bad attitudes on a regular basis, so I have to know how to handle them. I've done this almost 30 years now, and so when I can help somebody at no charge to their family, and they can get back out of the nightmare called jail, I feel good inside. It makes me feel good to help people. So, and I'm a bail bondsman. I want people to know, I'm not some kind of vampire that just wants to take people's money. I will try to help people if I can, and I do feel for people's situations. There are three types of people in jail: people with mental illnesses, people who are lifetime criminals, and people who have gone to jail having a very bad day. I don't want lifetime criminals. I don't want to get them out of trouble. They don't need to be on our streets, but I do want to help out people who've had a really bad day, or someone with a mental or physical disability that prevents them from doing what the court has told them to do.
Wow, a philosophical bail bondsman. So have you ever been, like, you try and get somebody back? They ever, like, beat you up or shoot you, or endangered? Or
I have been assaulted before.
You got some more stories for us?
When I went down, I first moved to Fresno back 17, 18 years ago. I was in my early 30s and encountered a guy who ran a chop shop. He was from Mexico. He ran a chop shop here. He was down on Belmont and Maple area. I tried to meet him about midnight one night to arrest him. He had no idea. Yeah, well, he had failed to appear on my bail bond.
So then you get to arrest him?
Sure.
Not the sheriff, or like a private sheriff to go bring him back.
Right.
In.
Correct.
Okay.
If you're a small guy like me, if you've got to hire an outside bounty hunter, that's going to cost you a few $1,000s to hire one of those. So you mostly try to take care of it on your own and try to come home to your family without being killed. So that's the only drawback to our business. But however, in that case, I went after the client on Belmont and Maple, and I pulled my gun on him, and he pulled his gun on me. He only pulled it to stun me, But then he got back into his giant four-wheel drive truck, and I went chasing after him through the streets of Fresno across all the speed bumps that had been put in by Councilmember Bob Long before on some of our streets. And I had my little sports car, and I was in bad shape. But I've
He
been
had the truck.
yeah, and I've been assaulted, and I've had my few bad times, but I've managed to come out okay. And I'm a married guy, so I want to come home to my wife every night, and I want to retire one day. So I try to keep the danger at a minimum.
There you go. How did you get into the bail bonds, bounty hunter?
My dad was an ATF agent and a full-time bounty hunter when I grew up.
So your family is law enforcement?
Oh yeah, my family's in law enforcement. My uncle ran the prison system in New York State for a long time, and a lot of my family members have been involved in law enforcement. My cousin was an undercover narcotic detective.
Is that normal for most of the bail bonds business that they come from law enforcement? I just don't know.
We all come from different walks of life. These days, a lot of corporations are involved in the business, and the way you can tell if it's a corporation on the bottom of their ad, the yellow pages, it'll say the owner is a corporation. So you really don't know who they are. If it's a small company like myself,
how do you know it's local? Like the people here?
Mostly it's local if you see the person's name in the ad.
Okay.
My clients will often use me. Their family members will call me and say, "Mark, the reason why we chose you is because your face is in the ad. We knew it was you." And, because I'm not a very good-looking guy, I might turn off some of my clients. But however, other clients tend to choose me because of the fact that they see my face and they say, hey, he looks like an okay guy, I'll give him a call. And I like to keep it simple. I believe the less people involved in this situation, the better. If you only need to make one call to a person like myself, that's the ultimate. You don't want to make, you don't want to talk to 5 different people. You don't want to talk to some, to secretaries and answering machines.
You need to know who you're going to talk to.
You want to know who you're talking every time.
Before it happens. Because
Correct.
you're going to be in jail to take your cell phone and you got a pay phone and you're freaking out and
Correct.
You can't remember the number.
Oh, yes. In the jail, we have our ads that are in the jail so they can see us. So they see who we are in the jail, too.
Okay. If there was one change in the criminal justice system, we didn't talk about this before, that could make things better from your 30 years experience, what would it be? Or just one that would be helpful with the jail overcrowding or
there are so many issues.
Policy.
There's so many issues, but I would have to say the number one thing is jail overcrowding. We've never had a situation like this before where literally, the jail is taken up by state prisoners doing 10 years, 20 years in prison in our local county jails, and there are people that are stealing your car that are being released again and again and again because there's no room for them.
Well, thank you very much, Mark, for coming on. That was a very enlightening conversation.
Thank you for having me.
I never knew I would meet such a knowledgeable and philosophical bail bondsman.
Thanks.
And so people get a hold of you they call your phone number. What's your phone number?
They can call my number at 559-271-1546 or speedybailfresno.com.
All right. Sounds good. This is Chris White for Law Talk. Every Friday, 3 to 4. You can find us on centralvalleytalk.com. We also have a YouTube feed, which you can find through the Facebook pages. You go to Law Talk on Facebook, Fresno, Chris White. You can find it that way. And I can be reached 559-349-0790, even if it's a question not about work injuries or personal injury or immigration. If it's about divorce, criminal, DUI, anything that comes up, you call. You can call me or you can call the show. You can send us a message on Facebook through Law Talk. And if you know somebody you'd like to have on the show, or a topic or a question for one of the guests that that's coming on, we'll be back next week from 3 to 4.
This segment is brought to you by Snowy Shaved Ice of Fresno for all your parties, fundraisers, and events.
If you live in Fresno's Tower District and you are paying over $800 per month in rent, you could be buying rather than renting. Mike Briggs Properties has Tower District homes for as low as $400 per month. Be an owner, not a renter. Check out this house. You could buy this house for $745 a month. This next house, $650 a month. Check this out. Own this home for $615 a month. This one, $590 a month, $585 a month. This one is $560 a month. But check out this last one, this cute Tower District Charmer. You could own this house for $415 a month. If you've been on the job or in your industry for over a year, you may qualify. Stop by Mike Briggs Properties in the Tower District, and we'll put you in touch with our friend Larry Korth at Mid-Valley Financial, and he'll tell you if you're qualified at no cost. That's right, it's free to find out if you could buy rather than rent. Call Mike Briggs Properties, 486-6758. Mike Briggs Properties, 486-6758.
Let the professionals at William L. Mitchell Landscaping make your lawn and gardens beautiful. If you need a new lawn, landscape design, or if you need someone to take over the weekly drudgery of caring for your yard, William L. Mitchell Landscaping can meet your needs. With his ornamental horticulture degree from Fresno State, Bill is qualified to take care of all phases of your landscape construction and design. Call Bill at William L. Mitchell Landscaping at 283-8849. That's Bill Mitchell, 283-8849.
CentralValleyTalk.com